Okay, hello everyone and welcome back to part 6, mix stage 3 of our mixing series on the M1 MacBook Air using Logic and Rosetta. So today we're going to be moving on to stage 3. Now if you notice up here, I still am on stage 1 according to the versions or alternatives they're called. So in the last one I forgot to create a new alternative first. Fortunately it's not that big a deal because we didn't do that much yet, so I'm just going to go ahead and mute both of our parallel buses. Turn all of this off. So now we're back to the static mix and I can just go ahead and create a new alternative. And so 02 is the mix bus. Okay, and then we save. So now on the mix bus we've got all of this turned on, these unmuted. And if you missed that video, I'll go ahead and link to it at the end of the video. You can check it out. Then we can go ahead and create a new alternative. So today we're going to be on some of the other bus processing. So these are our smaller buses now that feed into the mix bus. Okay, so I'll hit save. I'm going to go ahead and delete anything I didn't use. Looks good. Okay, so today we're going to be focusing right here. So you notice we started with a static mix. We always want to rely on fader balance most of all to get a solid mix. Once we had the solid fader balance, we went ahead and we added a couple layers of parallel compression. We dialed those into taste. Then over here we've got our mix bus, and here we have 4 different effects, a little bit of mid-side processing in the bass, some compression, just a couple dB, some EQ, and some tape. So now we're going to go ahead and focus on these buses. So these 3 are the buses that directly feed, or I guess technically these 4, but these 3 are the buses that directly feed into the mix bus. So we've got the Vox bus, the Inst bus, and the drums. And then over here, all of these are going to feed in to the instrumental and the vocals, and then we got all the drums, including the parallel bus, feeding into the drum bus. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started by actually adjusting the faders as I listen to the whole song. So periodically, maybe once or twice a session, I like to just play through the whole song and adjust my faders and make any minute adjustments as I see fit. And then we'll go ahead and we'll get started throwing some plugins as needed on these buses. So I'm going to go to the beginning and we'll just take a listen.
I was holding you all night, you know you're alright. And I was wishing on Starlight, the star said, will that be all? I said I'm looking for something out of sight. I let it go into the night. You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well it's okay. Got it rigged and play by the rules that they play. You say life's a joke, well then I say laugh right along, you'll be a-okay. Laugh right along and don't complicate. Laugh right along, you will be okay. I'm always looking for something out of sight. I let it go, I wasn't right. I was up thinking all night, I know I'm alright. And I was sitting in starlight, the star said, what's wrong, small soul? I said I'm looking for something out of sight. I let it go into the night. You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well that's okay. You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the rules that they play. You say life's a joke, well then I say laugh right along, you'll be a-okay. Laugh right along and don't complicate. Laugh right along, you will be okay. I'm always looking for something out of sight. I let it go, I wasn't right. I said I'm looking for something out of sight. I said I'm looking for something out of sight. I said I'm looking for something out of sight. I let it go into the night.
Okay, and I actually want to go ahead and route these guys. Whoops, didn't mean to route them there. So I've got 2 kicks. So I've got a So these both make up the kick. So I'm just going to route them to a new bus. It doesn't matter what bus. I'm going to create a track, put that right above the 2 kicks, call it the kick, and then make sure that is routed to bus 6, which is our drum bus. And now I can more easily adjust the kick or apply effects to it going forward. And I was thinking 1 dB was too much, but maybe a half dB is better. Okay, so now I'm going to play this chorus and I'm going to start applying some effects. And I usually like to start with the vocals. So with top down, you're generally going to just start adjusting the things that are most relevant to getting the sound as good as possible right away. And the vocals are crucial to most mixes. So let's start with the vocals. Now I actually like to use Gullfoss as a de-esser. So I'm going to put an instance of it here. Actually, I'm going to have it just affect the upper frequencies. And we're going to increase the tame. So this will allow us to reduce frequencies that are overly sibilant. I'll put one on the backing vocals as well. And now I'm just going to play it, and might solo them, but I'm mostly listening for how it is in the mix. Oh, so that's something really important as well. I'm mostly making decisions while things are not soloed. I might solo something to get a better sense of it, but I never make the final decision while it's soloed, because you're never going to listen to it while it's soloed. No one's going to hear the vocals by themselves. They're going to hear it in the context of the mix. So always make your decisions while the full mix context is present.
You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well that's okay. You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the rules that they play. You say life's a joke, well then I say laugh right along, you'll be A-okay. Laugh right along and don't complicate. Laugh right along, you will be okay. You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well that's okay. You just got...
You can cut more of the S sound from the backing vocals because it's never going to be noticeable. You just don't need as much S. You don't need the sibilants almost at all in the backing vocals. Obviously, you don't want to make it sound like they have a lisp, but you can be a little bit more aggressive. And then you could also, Logic itself has a built-in de-esser. So you could go to Dynamics, grab the de-esser, or you could use something like Pro DS from FabFilter, which is really ergonomic and easy to use. It doesn't really matter what you're using, we're just trying to get rid of some of that S sound. So let's keep listening and see what else we want to adjust.
Life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well that's okay. You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the rules that they play.
So I'm definitely going to want a little compression on the vocals. They're just a little bit too dynamic, so I'm going to go with MJUC, which is my favorite vocal compressor. It's got 3 compressors in one, and they all do a little bit of a different kind of analog sound to them. So I'm just going to go ahead and set this and then try a couple of the compressors out and see what I like best. So I'm just setting it to some settings I'm predicting might work, and then I'll adjust it.
You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well that's okay. You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the rules that they play. You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well that's okay. You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the rules that they play. You say life's a joke, well then I say laugh right along, you'll be A-okay. Laugh right along and don't complicate. Laugh.
So I turned on automatic gain compensation, so I don't need to adjust it directly to be hearing it at roughly the same level. Always level match. Always level match.
You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well that's okay. You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the rules that they play. You say life's a joke, well then I say
So I immediately liked Mark 2 better. Mark 1's almost always too much coloration to the sound.
You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well it's okay. You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the rules that they play.
So I went ahead and copied this to the backing vocals, and I'll do some heavier compression to the backing vocals.
Laugh right along and don't complicate. Laugh right along, you will be okay. I'm always looking for something out of sight. You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well it's okay. You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the rules that they play. You say life's a joke, well then I say laugh right along, you'll be a-okay. Laugh right along and don't complicate. Laugh right along, you will be okay. I'm always looking for something out of sight. I let it go.
And then once I've added some compression to the lead vocals and backing vocals separately, I usually like to add some compression to them together. Again, these are just, a few dB here, or more often around 2 or 1. And then more on the backing vocals, but then maybe a few on them together, just as a little bit of glue.
Laugh right along and don't complicate. Laugh right along, you will be okay. I'm always looking for something out of sight. I let it go, I wasn't right. You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well that's okay. You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the rules that they play. You say life's a joke, well then I say laugh right along, you'll be a-okay. Laugh right along and don't complicate. Laugh right along, you will be okay. I'm always looking for something out of sight. I let it go, I wasn't right. You say life's a game, well then I'll play.
So when my attack's too large, I feel like the vocals are popping out of the mix too much. And when it's too quiet, they're too tucked into the mix. Or when the attack's too slow, they're too tucked into the mix. So medium slow attack seemed just right for this song. And then a faster release was sounding pretty good. So these things are going to vary. It depends on your mix. So that's why it's hard for me to give you rules of thumb. I'm more just listening to what it sounds like in the mix. If I had these soloed and was doing this,
You say life's a game, well then I'll
it'd be meaningless. We get zero information out of that. It only matters how dynamic it is and how dynamic it should be in the context of the mix. I could adjust the warmth with this slider, and this is a pretty nice way of adjusting kind of the broad tone in a fairly gentle manner, but I already was doing some of that with over here in the timbre, and that actually reminds me that so I don't want the exact same kind of timbre and tone decisions to apply to the backing vocals and the lead vocals at the same time, because then they're going to be just occupying too similar a space. So let me actually listen to these and then adjust it.
You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well that's okay. You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the rules that they play. You say life's a joke, well then I say laugh right along, you'll be a-okay. Laugh right along and don't complicate. Laugh right along, you will be okay. I'm always looking for something out of sight. You say life's a game.
Okay, so if we listen to the vocals before and after all 3 rounds of compression, let's see what it sounds like.
You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well that's okay. You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the rules that they play. You say life's a joke, well then I say laugh right along, you'll be a-okay.
Listen right there, so let's see if we can isolate that.
Laugh right along, you'll be a-okay.
So the laugh really sticks out, and then the rest of it's a little too more subdued, but let's hear with the compression.
Laugh right along, you'll be a-okay. Laugh right along, you'll be a-okay.
So you can still hear the force of the word laugh, like the way it's sung, but it's no longer sticking out dynamically. And it's just kind of the whole vocal in this section now is pretty much always at a comfortable level relative to the mix.
You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well that's okay.
Let's hear it in stereo for a moment.
You say life's a joke, well then I say, laugh right along, you'll be A-okay. Laugh right along and don't complicate. Laugh right along, you will be okay. I'm always looking for something out of sight.
So notice how many layers of compression we've got here on the vocals. We've got a compressor on this level of the bus, we've got another compressor here, we've got some compression going on in the rear bus, and then we've got some compression going on the mix bus. And by doing just, a couple of dB of compression at each stage, we're getting a really transparent but controlled vocal sound. And this is what we're going to want in pretty much most genres anywhere close to pop. So we've got the vocals sitting pretty nicely. I'm not feeling the urge to reach for the EQ right now after just adjusting the timbre a little bit. So I'm going to leave that alone for now, and I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to the instrumental. I'm going to start with the keys and the bass relationship, maybe.
You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well that's okay. You just...
And my favorite thing for the piano, I don't usually put Goldfoss in any individual instruments, but I love putting it on the piano. It does wonders for the piano real quickly, and I can quickly adjust the tone where I want it in the mix after really just bringing it to life over with the recovering the tame parameters of Goldfoss. So yeah, if you are looking to spend any money on external plugin, on third-party plugins, Goldfoss should definitely be one of the first places you check out, because this plugin is worth its weight in gold.
You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well that's okay. You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the rules that they play. You say life's a joke, well then I say, laugh right along, you'll be A-okay. Laugh right along and don't complicate. Laugh right along, you will be okay. I'm always looking for something out of sight. I let it go, I wasn't right. You say life's a game, well then I'll play.
Got to go back to mono.
Well, that's okay.
It's important.
You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the rules that they play. You say life's a joke, well then I say, laugh right along, you'll be A-okay. Laugh right along and don't complicate. Laugh right along, you will be okay. I'm always looking for something out of sight. I let it go, I wasn't right. You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well
So between our layers of compression that we've got going on already, I'm not feeling the urge to grab a compressor for any of these guys individually. Maybe the bass? Maybe the bass. Yeah, I might add some compression to the bass. I like Wolf on bass a lot.
Just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the complicate. Laugh right along, you will be okay. I'm always looking for something out of sight. I let it go, I wasn't right. You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well that's okay. You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the rules that they play. You say life's a joke, well then I say, laugh right along, you'll be A-okay. Laugh right along and don't complicate. Laugh right along, you will be okay. I'm always looking for something out of sight. I let it go, I wasn't right. You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say say that it's rigged, well that's okay. You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the rules that they play. You say life's a joke, well then I say complicate, laugh right along, you will be okay. I'm always looking for something. You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well that's okay. You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the rules that they play. You say life's a joke, well then I say laugh right along, you'll be a-okay. Laugh right along and don't complicate. Laugh right along, you will be okay. I'm always looking for something out of sight.
Here's another trick I like, and you can do this most easily with Pro MB from FabFilter, but I'm sure you can get it to work on any other EQ or multiband, or even a compressor with a sidechain. So usually around 2K, I like to set the sidechain to my lead vocal. Where's my lead vocal? Which bus is it? Where are you? Leads. Okay. And now I'm gonna leave this at about range of 6 dB, and the attack and release fairly moderate. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set this to react to the vocal bus. So I can set it to the external sidechain, and let's see if it's working.
You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well that's okay. You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by.
This curve usually looks a little bit smoother when it's going, so maybe that has something to do with Rosetta.
You say life's
But it sounds just right, so I think it can be used.
You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the rules that they play. You say life's a joke, well then I say laugh right along, you'll be a-okay. Laugh right along and don't complicate.
I wanted the output of the whole mix to be different, not just that section. I'm trying to duck this section.
You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well that's okay. You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the rules that they play. You say life's a joke, well then I say laugh right.
So I'm just trying to carve a little bit of space around 2K for the vocals to sit, for the vocals to tuck or to pop out over the instrumental. And that's because 2K is the most sensitive part of the hearing for humans. That's actually the primary frequency when a baby cries, so it's pretty important. So you don't want to overemphasize it overall in the mix, but I'd rather have a little bit more of the vocal coming out here and a little bit less of the instrumental in this area. So you don't need to necessarily do this with something dynamic like this. You could just go take an EQ on this and duck it out a little bit in a place that sounds good, and then increase the volume so it's level matched, always level match. But
I'm always looking for something out of sight.
yeah, and there we go. Okay.
I wasn't right.
Okay, so another thing I want to do with a couple of my buses, particularly with the kick and the bass, is I want to make a little EQ puzzle for them. So I'm going to use graphic EQ. Pro Q3, though the stock Logic EQ would work just fine. So I'm going to pull out the bass and the kick. And basically, I'm looking to carve a little bit of space for each of them in a non-overlapping way. So I'll go ahead and show you what I'm talking about. So I may solo these briefly to kind of hear what's going on, but I'm going to make my final decisions when we're in with the mix present. And I'm mostly looking to do this with my ears, but I'm going to set the analyzers to give me as much info as I can anyways. Make sure this will automatically adjust the gain, so it's really easy to just slide it around and see what I like. yeah, I'm not getting enough info from soloing these. So now that I've kind of gotten a sense of them, I'm going to unsolo it and then make the decisions.
You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well that's okay. You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the rules that they play. You say life's a joke, well then I say laugh right along, you'll be a-okay. Laugh right along and don't complicate. Laugh right along, you will be okay. I'm always looking for something out of sight. I let it go, I wasn't right. You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well that's okay. You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the rules that they play. You say life's a joke, well then I say laugh right along, you'll be a-okay. Laugh right along and don't complicate. Laugh right along, you will be okay. I'm always looking for something out of sight.
So this is what I mean by EQ puzzle, where I'm raising this one by 3 dB, I'm lowering that same exact frequency band by 3 dB on the bass. And then vice versa for this bump over here on the bass, I'm lowering it in the kick. And this just allows you to have this gap where the kick or the bass is going to be poking out more in this region and the kick's going to be poking out more over here. So whether or not you want the kick or the bass to be sounding below one another, which one you want to be lower in the mix is just dependent on that mix. So you got to listen to it and decide. Now to make sure I didn't flip these, or to make sure it does sound best in this orientation, I'm going to go ahead and turn them off and on and then try flipping them, seeing what I like.
You say life's a game, well then I'll play.
Actually, to prepare to flip them, I'm going to grab this, and I can right click on it, and I can invert the gain. And then I can do the same thing over here. So invert the gain. So now, did that work how we wanted it? Nope, I wasn't grabbing both of them. Okay, let's make sure this is happening right. Okay. Double check these two are different. Okay, so now I'll turn these ones off, and I can just go back and forth, see which one sounds better.
You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well that's okay. You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the rules that they play. You say life's a joke, well then I say laugh right along, you'll be a-okay. Laugh right along and don't.
Okay, and I'm actually going to open up the keys here, and I'm going to pull this over here. And now I don't need to, if you play the keys, I don't really have as much information down in the area the kick's occupying, so I don't need to cut it out there. But I am going to take where we cut the bass and cut that here to make more room for the bass from the left hand of the piano.
Laugh right along, you'll be a-okay. Laugh right along and don't complicate. Laugh right along, you will be okay. I'm always looking for something out of sight. I let it go, I wasn't right. You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well that's okay. You just gotta know that it's rigged and
I like the keys in the 1000 range popping out a little bit. So then I'm going to go into the strings, and I'm going to go ahead and cut there. And there's nothing down here in the strings. In fact, I'll probably just pull something up here. Go ahead and drop these here. I like these around 6250. And I'll go back to the piano. I'll drop those up there. And now we've got a puzzle going on here. So if we grab all these things, these EQs, We can A-B them.
You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well that's okay. You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the rules that they play. You say life's a joke, well then I say laugh right along, you'll be A-okay.
And you hear everything just kind of occupy its own space, become a little bit clearer and more present, easier to pick out, but also fitting together with other instruments a little bit better. So that kind of EQ puzzle technique is really beneficial. I usually start with the kick and bass and then just kind of work my way up one thing at a time. Because, you know, my higher instruments aren't going to be interacting with my kick so much or with my bass. So I don't need to, you know, be creating complementary EQ curves between every instrument in the mix, just between the ones that are fighting each other or occupying similar spaces in the frequency spectrum. So the only other thing to do with these EQs now is that the strings are only present in the choruses. I don't want to be changing the piano for the benefit of the strings when the strings aren't there in the verses. So I'm going to go ahead and take the keys over here. I'm going to turn on automation, so you can hit this automation button up here, or you can hit A, and then I'm going to change it to latch, and this is going to allow me to adjust it as it's playing. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this one off right now, or have it start off. I'm going to push play and then I'm going to turn it on. And now you can see that we've got turning that band on and off on the automation down here. So I'm going to turn that to read, and now I'm just going to set it manually. So I want that to come on in the chorus, and I want it to come on exactly when the chorus comes on. So I'm going to set snap automation to active from the snap mode. And now I can snap it right there. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on over here. And turn it back off, and then make sure we did that right. I'm going to just play a little bit while looking at it. So now you see it's off. And let's watch what happens when the chorus comes in. Now we're making room for the strings when the strings are present, but over here, we don't need to.
You just gotta then now decide. I let it go into the night.
I think that's fine. Okay. So let's see, what do we got? Have we got everything we need? Let's listen to the verse for a minute.
I was up thinking all night, I know I'm alright.
Let's listen to the verse for a minute.
I was up thinking all night, I know I'm alright. And I was sitting in starlight, the stars said, what's wrong, small soul? I said, I'm looking for something out of sight.
And let's take a listen without all our processing. So I'm going to turn it off, I'll let it play for a bit, and then I'll turn it all on.
I was up thinking all night, I know I'm alright. And I was sitting in starlight, the stars said, what's wrong, small soul? I said, I'm looking for something out of sight. I let it go into the night. You say life's a game.
So I actually need to turn the vocal down in the verse a little bit because it's getting louder from the layers of compression, and I don't want it louder in the verse. It's more, it'll be less dynamic now, but I don't want that louder effect.
I was up thinking all night, I know I'm alright. And I was sitting in starlight, the stars said, what's wrong, small soul? I said, I'm looking for something out of sight. I let it go into the night. I said, I'm looking for something out of sight. I let it go into the night.
I feel like this could use a little bit of compression itself. I want something really transparent. So what am I gonna do?
Just gotta know that it's rigged and played by. I was up thinking all night, I know I'm alright. And I was sitting in starlight, the stars said, what's wrong, small soul? I said, I'm looking for something out of sight. I was up thinking all night, I know I'm alright. And I was sitting in starlight, the stars said, what's wrong, small soul? I said, I'm looking for something out of sight. I was up thinking all night, I know I'm alright. And I was sitting in starlight, the stars said, what's wrong, small soul? I said, I'm looking for something out of sight. I let it go into the night.
If an effect's ever just feeling a little too strong, you can just dial back the mix knob if the plugin has one until it sounds just right. Okay, so I think we have it. You know, on many of these tracks, we only put one plugin. On some of them, we put two, and that's about it. So by affecting all our buses in this way, we're able to make a large difference in the mix quality with not very many plugins and not that much processing. So if we just do one more A-B.
You say life's a game, well then I'll play. You say that it's rigged, well that's okay. You just gotta know that it's rigged and play by the rules that they play. You say life's a joke, well then I say, laugh right along, you'll be a-okay. Laugh right along and don't complicate. Laugh right along, you will be okay. I'm always looking for something.
And we're one stage closer to finishing the mix. So in our next mix, we're going to be going over effects. So reverb, delay, chorus, any other effects you might want to put on your mix, shimmer, and then we'll go from there. So make sure you tune in next time to see the continued evolution of this mix on an M1 MacBook Air using Logic and Rosetta. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe to make sure you don't miss any of the coming videos in this mixing series. See you guys in the next one. Thanks.